If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by pscoco.com. You go to pscoco.com, and that's Phoebe Sod's chocolate website. Phoebe Sod's an independent curator with the Cocoa Exchange. TSC is formerly known as Dove Chocolate Discoveries. These are the finest chocolates you can get because they start with the best cocoa beans, which are tested for quality and flavor by expert technicians. The Cocoa Exchange offers not just premium chocolates, but anything from sauces and spices to brownie and cake mixes, and even coffee and martini mixes. So if you wish to treat yourself or someone you love to a sweet and tasty gift, then the Cocoa Exchange is the brand for you. So you go to pscoco.com, pscocoa.com. You click on the Shop Now button. You see the beautiful chocolates. You can order those chocolates right now. They could be in your mailbox by Monday morning. Or if you want to get into the cocoa business like Phoebe Sod, you can be a chocolatier as well. Get your own website. You hit the Contact Us button, and Phoebe will put you into the cocoa business, the chocolate cocoa business. Also want to welcome our brand new station. We just started on a brand new station today, a Pulse Talk Radio over there in the UK. It's our first night on their show, on their station. So welcome all the UK listeners. I'll try and talk slowly. I know a lot of people think I have a New York accent, but I lost that a long time ago. All right. Very excited about our guest today. We have Marina Anderson, the ex-wife of David Carradine. She's written a book called David Carradine, Eye of the Tornado, and it explores her marriage, her love affair with David Carradine, and the unfortunate death of David Carradine. And she even got into an investigation of his death and his murder. Well, I think at one point she said she suspected it was a murder. I'm not sure what she says about it now. You could find this book here. It's on Amazon.com as well. You could find it on Opperman Report, blogspot.com. We'll have it on there. Also the Opperman Report bookstore, but also David Carradine book.com, and Marina also has a website called marinaanderson.com because she's a very well-versed actress. As a matter of fact, she got a film just came out in March called The Red Maple Leaf she'll be telling us all about too as well. Marina, are you there?
I am here, but I got to tell you still sound New York to me.
Yeah, I know. It was worse.
Makes me want to order a hot dog, and I haven't eaten meat in years. So.
Yeah, I haven't eaten meat either. I'm doing a Daniel fast, 40 days now. So, Marina, tell us about yourself. Tell us about Marina Anderson.
Oh, goodness. The Marina Anderson, right, today, I was telling you a little bit about it. I'm kind of like I go on little mini warpaths when I see there's injustice in certain areas of the world or what I've experienced and stuff. So, currently, outside of what my mother is going through, I found that I have mold in my condominium that was caused by a roof leak from the HOA. And I connected with this company called Mold USA, and I'm telling you, it was like this major education for me. I'll try and capsulize it for you. If you have any work, it has to be done if it's caused by an HOA, homeowners association. You have to get permission. They have to do mold testings and things. Well, but I was refused this. So I went ahead and I hired this company, Mold USA, to do my mold testing. And sure enough, it comes back that I had mold. Well, they ignored the suggestion and you know, I would say documentation, because I also I do publicity, this building contractor, Scott Harris, who built Ed Begley Jr.'s LEED Platinum Green home, by the way. And he sent me this email saying, you got to get those walls opened up because you could create mold. And I'm going, wow, okay, well, I'll take his advice. He's the expert. I don't know anything about this because I'm a newbie to this whole area. Well, it wasn't done, and I keep pushing because the experts are telling me you've got to open up the walls, you're going to have mold. Fast forward, they didn't, and I do, and I've done such major research. Eric Troyer, former member of the orchestra, produced a documentary called Moldy, and I watched that, and I was just, my mouth was to the floor. I was like, oh, my God, this is very serious stuff. People have no idea why they have illnesses, and it could very well be caused by mold that they don't know they have in their walls. Whenever you have a water leak, it can lead to mold, and until they get that checked out, it could be anywhere from cancer to respiratory to confusion. I mean, there's a whole long list of things that allergic reactions and toxic reactions to mold can be. And everybody's kind of heard about the black mold. Well, it's a very serious thing. So I kind of opened up that whole world to the public. I'm kind of like blasting it out on Facebook and things. People have to get educated about this because it is a hidden danger. And they say, there's nothing, no black stuff on the walls. It doesn't matter. It's behind the wall that you can't see. So it's very important that I'm getting out there. No matter where you live, you could have mold in your walls and not know it. And I thoroughly, highly suggest getting your homes checked.
Well, have you experienced any medical effects, any health ill effects from this mold?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Coughing, hoarse throat, confusion.
Yeah.
I have a long list of things. And, when I get outside, mold is everywhere, but under certain conditions, it grows to a point where you don't want it to grow. So people who are more sensitive, one of my friends and another neighbor, they have a high sensitivity to mold, and they got very, very sick. This one woman I met through Facebook, extremely sick. It's taken her 5 years to detox from the toxicity in her system. So the levels of how it affects people it can vary, and it can lead to very serious things. So it's important to pay attention to this. And doctors ordinarily don't think of, well, maybe we should check to see if you have this in your system or if you're allergic to this and that. And there's hundreds of types of mold. So when you get a mold test, they have like a graph, and they say what mold they find in the concentrated air in your room. They do what's called an ambient test, and then they do a core cavity sample of what's in the wall, and they have it documented in what they give to you in their reports, what they find, and to the levels. And it's pretty scary. It can be pretty scary.
Why don't you give the audience an idea of your background as an actress in the movie industry?
I have relatives in the business. My granduncle, Harry Joe Brown, produced the Randolph Scott Westerns. And one of my cousins on my dad's side of the family as well is Ray Evans, the 4 Oscar-winning lyricist. Ray wrote the lyrics to Que Sera Sera, Buttons and Bows, Silver Bells, the Bonanza theme, Mr. Ed theme. His partner, Jay Livingston, wrote for years and years and years together. So growing up with that kind of element to the family, my mother was a contract singer to Warner Brothers. My dad was a musician as well, but he segued into aerospace. My mom wanted the family, so she, raised the family. And I just, ever since I was 4 years old, I remember being on stage with my mom because she was singing, because she continued her singing, and I was like, I want to do that. I want that. I want that. People smiling at me and applauding. This is nice. So when I got older, I just kept pursuing it with not much help from my family because they didn't really want that from me. And I eventually, got professional at it. In fact, that's kind of how I met David in the 70s when I was taking acting lessons on the Warner Brothers lot. And that was one of the reasons why we actually got married on the Warner Brothers lot on Laramie Street, to be exact, is because it's where we originally met. So fast forward, lots of national commercials, guest starring reoccurring roles in TV shows, and a lot of film. So if you Google Marina Anderson actress, my stuff will pop up at my website. And it's been quite a journey. It's met some incredible people and experiences, but I'm never one to kind of sit by the phone. So I ventured into writing and publicity and artist and all sorts of areas to keep creatively busy. So we wear more than one hat. I'm a multi-hyphenate, and I totally believe people should do that. When they say, well, you should just do this or you should, no, don't limit yourself. Go for it, man.
If you got the energy, why not?
Go for it.
Yeah, so they can find out this at marinaanderson.com. And also, too, where can they find your jewelry, the Flying Goddess Jewelry? Do you have a special website for that?
Well, I sell it on Etsy. So if you go to the Etsy website, etsy.com, type in The Flying Goddess, you'll eventually see my jewelry. Or my personal website is theflyinggoddess.com. And it was inspired from the divorce. I had a company titled The Flying Goddess, and my logo was this half-nude winged goddess. And then through the horrible divorce, which I encountered in my memoir, I sat down on my drawing board, and I thought this would really make a nice, jewelry, like, a charm or something. So I traced the design, and I flipped it over, and to make the other half of it, to make a whole goddess, and I realized, oh my God, this forms a heart. And there was my design. So I truly believe it was divine inspiration, and that became the Flying Goddess. And it comes with an affirmation: women are all goddesses. We're born that way. Remembering your inner power gives you wings to fly. And so I've been hoping to help empower other women along the way, and telling them what I went through, and hoping that's going to help empower them and encourage them to continue on and fight the fight, and be successful, reinvent yourself, and go for the goal, go for the stars, go for the moon.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, from looking at your pictures of you and David, it looks like there's a rather significant age difference, right? So now you said that you met him in the 70s when he was on the set of Kung Fu. You had to be like a little kid. Now that I think about it, how old were you?
Oh, bless your heart.
Well, you had to be.
There was a bit of an age difference, not humongous.
No? Okay.
It was like 16-year difference.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. That's
yeah.
I'm guilty of that occasionally.
My parents were 13 years apart, so I never really thought of that. I mean, I dated Dabney Coleman for years, and that was like 21-year difference. I just never paid attention to age chronologically. It's the person, it's their essence and what they bring forward to the table, and compatibility and all that. So, and I've dated men younger, 15 years younger than me, and it didn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, in the long run, when they want kids and you're like past that point, it's like, well, that could be a game changer. But so I've kept an open mind to age.
So when you met him in the 70s, was there any dating or any romance at that time?
Oh, no. No. I actually wandered over to a sound stage that I saw with all these candles burning in the background. And you know how you have that feeling sometimes that you're being watched? Mm. Well, I had one of those feelings, and I turned around, and there was this man in these Shaolin robes with, bald head. And I realized, oh, my God, that's David Carradine. And being very shy at that point in my life, I don't remember exactly what I said, but he invited me back, and I was basically, fine. Well, it never happened, but that was my first encounter with him. Fast forward, I go to audition for a show that he's revamping. It's Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, an extension from the original Kung Fu, and I had a car accident was a day and a half prior to my audition. I could barely remember my name because I had a concussion. And I remember sitting in the reception area going over my lines, like, oh, my God, I'm like in a panic. And in blows in David, my shoes, 3 sheets to the wind. It was, and he looks at me and he goes, "You're here to audition, aren't you?" And I went, "Yeah." But mind you, a little backstory. His wife at the time, Gail, was her boyfriend and my boyfriend in college were roommates together. And because a lot of the backstory here. Over the years, my second husband, Michael Anderson Jr., the actor, was working on a project called Boat Wars, and they were supposed to meet with David at the house and everything, and I was supposed to go and never went. And all the time I'm feeling like this, oh, my God, David Carradine, I remember him in the news, and this kind of attraction to this person. Okay, fast forward, I'm in this waiting room, and I said, "Yeah, I'm waiting to go in to audition for your show." And I said, "By the way, I kind of know Gail through, a college friend, and Ed Begley Jr., and he goes, "Really?" And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I'm going to read with you." And he disappears in the other room, and I'm going, "Oh, no, oh, my God." And I went into total panic. Well, I blew the audition. It was not good, and the producer who called me in, Michael Sloan, bless his heart, he understood. I didn't tell them that I had a car accident, but they could tell, I had a Band-Aid over the stitches over my left eye. But I told him later, and he said, "Well, honey, don't worry about it. I'll explain to everybody, and we'll keep you in mind." And I'm like, "Okay, great. Now that's done deal." Well, when I moved back to Toronto, they had me audition for a guest star role on the show. And it was for a director that I had worked with before in another show, and the writer-producers I had worked with on yet another show. And they said, one of the producers, Larry Lalonde, called me, and he said, "Listen, we have a slight problem with your making a decision here." He said, "Would you wear a wig on the show?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He said, "Well, good, because we'd love to have you guest star on the show." And I went, "Oh, my God." So fast forward on set, Gail is over there, and she goes, "Marina, Valley College. Oh, my God, mi casa, su casa." So I knew them as friends from that point. They had me back on the show next season yet again. I worked with John Cassar, directed me in one of the final episodes in the last season. So I had a reoccurring guest star role on the show, and which was awesome. And I got to know Gail and all over again, and David as a new friend, but no romantic thing at all. In fact, I remember telling a girlfriend, "Thank God I'm not married to this man," because of all the problems and things. And I was like, "Oh, geez," I'm like, "Whoa." And then when their relationship fell apart, people were pushing us together because I didn't drink alcohol, very much a teetotaler, health nut, and they thought I was a good influence on him. And the attraction grew, and then, history was made. So that's kind of how it came about.
But David, on the other hand, was a heavy drinker and drugs as well?
Not drugs. When people say drugs, when I knew them during that time, I'm talking about 1992 to the time that I moved in with David was 1995. I never knew him to do any drugs. It was the alcohol. Admittedly, he was in the press. He's a quart and a half of vodka a day.
Really?
Yeah. Production had problems. But, on David's side, they say he was 2 hours late. Well, because of scheduling and things, he would sit, in his dressing room for 2 hours, and he thought that was a waste of time. He could be writing his music. And so there's two sides to every story. However, when I moved in, they wanted to make sure that David would be on set on time, and all the producers knew me from prior to David, and they knew I was trustworthy and everything. So they actually, production hired me as his assistant and to keep an eye on him. And I did. And things went smoother. There was an incident where, and it was in the press, where he nudged the young actor that played his son on the show, not Chris Potter, but he played the younger version of Chris Potter on the show. And what happened was David was just filing for his divorce with Gail. He was extremely upset. he sometimes, and this is a complaint, he often nudged a little too hard because he wasn't totally aware of how hard he was pushing or pulling or something, and he nudged the kid a little too hard, and the kid went bumping into a wall. Well, that was a problem because that could easily have been labeled abuse and this and that, and there was a threat of a lawsuit. So I got together with the parents and I explained what happened, and they dropped the charges. So Warner Brothers was ever so grateful to me.
I could imagine.
And I wrote about that in the book because, again, there's two sides to every story. You know, people could see it one way, but there's also an element of, you have understanding of the other. And same thing with him being known as Glasshopper because of an incident at the Rolling Stones concert, a very similar thing. He pushed a door closed and the glass shattered and he was arrested. And, it's just, unfortunately, he kind of did himself in with a lot of things. And I kind of had my hands full when we got together. And I wrote about it all. But it's also to help gain understanding of what he was all about, not just the bad stuff. There's reasons behind things, including incest and including these sexual deviance. And I'm out there with my issues, too. So it's not a one-way street in this book.
Let me ask
Dr.
you a couple of questions. Before we get to Dr. Drew, was he an actual martial artist? Did he know martial arts in real life?
He learned it over the years. When he originally was cast in the original Kung Fu, David was an actor, but he was trained by the best, and he continued that on. He loved it, and he was really good at it. So he became one. It wasn't like he started off as Bruce Lee. No, David learned it, and like I said, he was really good at it.
And what about, was he a Buddhist? What was his faith?
He didn't have a particular faith. He kind of called himself cosmic. There was a very psychic, hiccups, a very psychic side to David, and very intuitive. He was, I introduced him to several clairvoyants, Marilyn Manzata in Toronto, Miria Cook in Toronto as well, Michael Bodine, of which I wrote about them in the book as well, because when David passed, I talked with them, and astrologers, Donna Hinnon, Weiss Kelly, Sloan Bella, a key person as to insight. So David, I think he pretty much consulted with Michael Bodine over the years, and Michael was one of the ones that warned David to be careful about his habits. And David wasn't. And therefore, he ends up in Thailand.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, after your divorce, he wound up with a woman who was a Scientologist. Was he ever dabbling in Scientology over the years?
David... No. David was a rebel. He wasn't a joiner of anything, really. He's an entertainer. He loved his music. He is extremely talented in anything that he wanted to put his mind to, David could do. He was brilliant. No.
Okay.
No.
And now I read your...
To my knowledge, I can't verify after we divorced, separated, but to my knowledge, I don't ever believe that he would be joining anything near it like it, no religion, no, because it wasn't David.
Okay.
He was just a free thinker, basically, total free-thinking guy. And what I learned from David on that side is he questioned authority. He would confront authority, and I never did. I was always Miss Goody Two-Shoes. And so I stepped outside of my comfort zone, and I didn't so much become a rebel, but very much of an advocate and for animals and things like that, but I put it to a different direction. But, yeah, I question authority and what's printed and what's not. I learned that from David. So he taught me a lot of things, which were empowering. And it's in the book to help empower other people.
Right, and the book is Eye of the Tornado. Now,
it's David Carradine, The Eye of My Tornado.
Right. Now, I read your divorce papers that are available on Smoking Gun, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah,
If my divorce papers were
Yeah,
ever on there, forget it. I'd probably have to move to the UK and change my accent. But the thing is, you mentioned in there about this issue of incest, that he was involved in an incestuous relationship with a younger relative. I
didn't say younger. I said incest with I believe it was close family member.
I'm almost positive it says younger,
member.
that it was younger in age. Someone younger. Is that incorrect?
No.
It was not younger in age.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
No, there was not just close family member.
Okay, close family member.
That document that was supposed to be sealed wound up somehow, evidently somebody messed up in the court and wound up in the public file. Because it was a response to something that David wrote. It was very, I felt, character defamation and degrading to any effort that I accomplished for him and his career. It was really nasty and unnecessary. And I truly believe that David really didn't write that. It was written for him, but he signed the document. So I responded, and I came out with the truth. And so they obviously didn't want it to go public, and he was granted from the judge to seal those records. A few weeks later, I get a call from Smoking Gun. What about these papers? And I'm going, what? Well, yeah, sure enough, they ended up in public file, and it went internet, went worldwide. It was just so. It's kind of if you step into a spiritual place with all this. Certain things are not meant to be hidden. And I believe somebody in a different universe was looking over the situation and going, David, not acceptable. You're not going to get away with this one. And it came out, and therefore I could write about it in my book.
Well, I've read a lot of these court motions, and it appears this one, you wrote this yourself?
I did. I wrote every word of it myself.
Yeah, you could tell.
We did have an editor, Claire McKeon, wonderful, lovely lady, and wonderful spirit. And so she had very little as far as any corrections or anything. So, no, it was, all mine.
And were you represented by an attorney?
The publisher had their attorney to vet the book.
No. I'm talking about the motion, this court motion that I saw on the Smoking Gun.
Oh, it was a divorce. It was we're going through our divorce in court.
Right, but
yes, I had my divorce attorney. Yes.
But it appears that you wrote that yourself. Did you write that yourself?
Did I write what myself?
The motion.
Well, the attorney has to go over it. I mean, but those I wrote it.
Right.
The attorney's not putting the words into my mouth.
No, I understand that. Now, back to the incest issue. How did that come up in your relationship? How did he bring this up to you? How did you find out about this?
Well, I want people to read the book. It's all in the book. I go through it with I would say integrity. They will understand, coming from my background, being molested by an uncle. As Dr. Drew pointed out, Dr. Drew Pinsky, my counseling with him, the 1-hour counseling, is verbatim in the book. It's an entire chapter in the book because it is critical to what attracted me to David, and it can apply to other people. Like, why did I end up in this relationship? How could I be attracted to someone with light? It answers a lot of questions, and there was like an epiphany for me. So, God, I wish I had seen him 20 years prior to David. I would have run, not dove into the relationship, had I had that help and gotten healthy with things. So, I want people to read that because it's really important.
Do you regret your relationship with David?
No, because it was obviously some lesson that I had to learn. And the brilliant light and love of my life that came out of the whole thing. We didn't have children, but I had my collie, Lulu. I'm going to go to tears. God, sensitive time in my life here. Lulu was daughter to Lassie 8 And her brother from the same litter was Lassie 9. And she was my rock. I have severe post-traumatic stress disorder. And I wrote about that in the book, too, because I know a lot of people out there have it, and there's not enough proper help with this situation, condition. And Lulu was my service dog. She was also a certified therapy dog. We went to a lot of organizations and helped out with other animal organizations and things. And she was my rock. And I wrote about how she helped me and helped others. And that was the most blessed thing that came out of that marriage. And so for her alone, no, I will never, ever regret the marriage. And I learned a lot from David. It wasn't all bad. It was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It was a wild roller coaster. We traveled the world. It was intense love, in love. In fact, even after we divorced, David was still wearing a copy of our wedding ring. It was on his hand when he died. It's in the autopsy pictures. So there was still the love there. And that's one of the things that it still kind of gets to me. Because, I still was in love with a man for years after we divorced. It wasn't because I hated him. It was unhealthy relationship, why it was necessary to divorce.
Yeah, and it seems like from reading Emotion that you did have somewhat of an amicable relationship because you ran into him at some kind of a premiere or something like that. You had a boyfriend, a date with you. You went up, you talked to him, you were going to introduce him to the date. So it seemed like there was at least some amicability there.
It was difficult. Yeah, well, it was difficult. And then, unfortunately, when you get people outside of just, say, the two of us influencing in a negative way, and then turning the other person against the other with either lies, I love this word, disingenuous statements, comments, and then causing more friction and dislike and adversarial conditions, that's really unfortunate. And that's what happened. And
well, who was doing that?
So I'm not going to say, but there were several people around him.
Okay. People he worked with, or people he was in relationships with, family members?
I'm not going to say. It was just unfortunate. And anyway, moving through that and financially, getting basically screwed over in the divorce, and the house that we had, my mother took the loan out for, $650,000 loan, so we could have a house to live in, and David was paying for the mortgage because the IRS had a lien. He could not do property. And I put my life savings in for the deposit because we didn't have money. People think I was a gold digger, and I'm laughing at that, going, we moved from Toronto. He had the cash in his pocket, which was like $1,000. Gail, they had a joint account, and that was wiped out. It was a joke, and we were always hard up for money. It was always difficult.
Well, let me ask you this: why did he have so
manager.
much? Why did he have so much tax problems? He didn't pay his taxes from Kung Fu?
He left it in the hands of other people, and it wasn't properly taken care of.
Yeah.
And that was a big problem. Unfortunately. And so we were always, scrambling and trying to meet ends. And so people make these comments, oh, yeah, you wrote the book to make money. No, books very rarely make a lot of money. And I certainly didn't marry him for his money because there was none. And anything that he got as an actor during those 6 years together, I was his manager. I was very instrumental in getting most of it. And I paid for my own bills. He didn't pay for my bills. I mean, people don't understand a lot of elements. And that's in there, too. Again, to help other women going through divorce, how to plan for things, how to, when you're compromising too much and you should be looking out for yourself, which a lot of people like me, I was what you do for love, Yeah. It was for the marriage. I found that I thought he was unjustly served in the industry, that he was this incredible actor and he deserved his his rightful place with the A-listers again, and that was my mission. And dang, I accomplished that. And obviously, it didn't do it alone. David had his talent too, but he left everything to me, and it was an incredible responsibility. And to try and work on a marriage and elements in the marriage, it's hard. It was really hard because he had a self-destruct button. I was constantly doing damage control, and it was a challenge.
Well, let me ask you a quick question before we go to a commercial break. Really quick. The series Legend continues, right? I don't think I had cable TV at the time. I was going through a period of my life when I wasn't watching TV. So I never got into that. Even the repeats, I could never quite get into it. But the thing is, yeah, I know. I'm totally missed. And I'm a huge David Carradine fan. I've seen everything.
It was a really good show.
I'll make a point now, because you can get everything now on those putlockers and stuff, But the thing is, I never understood. Now, was that the same Kwai Chang from the 1800s when he went during the same guy? How was his son?
It was the grandson of it's the hereditary kind of next lineage thing. Chris Potter, talented actor, played his son in The Legend Continues. So, because the legend did continue.
So David Carradine was actually playing the grandson of himself.
They did a lot of flashbacks to like the original where he played the young grasshopper, and so it was like a fast forward of the original.
Okay, yeah, I definitely got to check it out because they had one of those binge marathon things on TV the other day of Kung Fu, and I sat 18 hours. I sat and I listened to the whole thing. I watched the whole thing.
Yeah,
you love it, man. I was a kid back in those days. But anyway, we got to take a commercial break. We're here with Marina Anderson. Her website is marinaanderson.com. We're talking about the book David Carradine, Eye of the Tornado, and you can find that book at davidcarradinebook.com. And she's going to be out in an indie film coming out shortly, which is a Red Maple Leaf. We'll be right back after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. Did you know that 30% of all people on online dating websites and personal ads are either married or in a monogamous relationship? 30%. If you suspect that your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend may be cheating online, go to emailrevealer.com. On our online infidelity investigation. You give us their email address, and we can trace it back to online personal ads, dating sites, and social networks. We can even expand the investigation and find them cheating on escort service sites or even porn sites if they're registered to porn sites and swinger sites. So check out emailrevealer.com if you suspect your spouse is cheating, and check out our online infidelity investigation. William Ramsey is a producer here at the Opperman Report, and he's just come out with a new book, Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. Now, he just sent me a copy of this book. Oh, boy, it's about 2 inches thick, and there's a chapter on just about everybody in this book that you can imagine. The Beatles, and Jack Parsons, everybody's in here. It's incredible. And I definitely recommend this book. There's a bunch of pictures in here, too, of all these people and different chapters and information. Anton LaVey and people I've never heard of, too. There's a whole bunch in here. JFC Fuller. I don't know who he is. But it's great stuff by our producer here, William Ramsey. So check out Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. You can find it on Amazon.com, or you could find it in the Opperman Report.com bookstore. We have an urgent bulletin. It seems that the group Strawman is still on the loose. It has been confirmed that Strawman are Canadian, okay, and that authorities are asking people to stay indoors, lock your doors and windows until this group can be dealt with. You could find more information about this group of Canadians, at strawmanmusic.com. you can have your ad played here. Okay, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, in fact, we desperately need sponsors right now to take this show to the next level. So you can have your your ad played here, read live, like I'm doing now, so artfully. Or we can even work up a little jingle for you with some music and stuff like that and play it here. You have no idea how inexpensive it would be to have your ad played on the Opperman Report on 7 stations live Friday night and another 7 stations live on Saturday night, plus replayed every day of the week on different stations, and then archived on YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and all different kinds of podcasts, Pod This and Podbean, all different kinds of places who archive the show for us. And on those archives, your ad would play indefinitely, forever. You also get a little banner on OppermanReport.com. You get a mention on the air, you get a little interview on the air, and all kinds of fun stuff if you sponsor Opperman Report. We have an opportunity to get this show on a major AM/FM station in California. We've been approved. So if you want to sponsor us into that, so incredibly inexpensive that your ad would be heard by the range covers 5 million people in population where your ad would be broadcast, and all these other stations would be thrown in for free. So really affordable prices to sponsor OppermanReport.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You can get a copy of that book at emailrevealer.com, or you can get a copy of that book now. It's back up on Amazon.com. How to Become a Successful Private Investigator by Ed Opperman. And this book has been updated a little bit from the previous book that we had that was available to our wonderful listeners. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Marina Anderson. Her book is her website is marinaanderson.com. And all this time I've been saying the book wrong. It's David Carradine, Eye of My Tornado, instead of Eye of the Tornado. David
Eye of My Tornado, right?
Eye of My Tornado. Now that makes sense, okay. Now, so we were talking about your marriage to David Carradine. Now, and in your divorce papers, again, you describe about how... he had deviant sexual habits and stuff like that, and he died.
We're the original 50 Shades of Grey, my dear.
Well, so was it so?
And I wrote about it in the book because it has everything. It's all very pertinent information. People say, "Oh, you just exploitation." No, there was a reason for that. I mean, sex was very important to David, and he had some interesting ways of expressing that.
So,
I laugh now, but unfortunately, that is part of how his demise. So
this is something more extreme than you had ever
tragic.
been exposed to before in your life.
Pardon?
His behavior was more extreme than anything you had been exposed to before.
Right. So to me, initially, it was a novelty. You're in love with someone. Oh, this is exciting. Oh, this is different.
Right.
And then fast forward, you realize, oh, and this is the meat and potatoes of his diet. Oh, now we got a problem, and it was how to balance that, counter it, deal with it. It was difficult.
But you were with him 2 years before you married him, right?
No.
No?
No, we're 1995 to 2001 is when we divorced.
Okay, I thought the entire relationship was 6 years, right? You were married 4 years,
correct?
6
years, yeah.
Yeah, and you were married 4 years.
We were together from 1995 to 2000. The phone is flipping. Sorry,
okay.
To 2001.
Okay, so you had been.
Like I said, you don't know really that. In the initial, like I said, it's experimentation. You think it's just like a once in a blue moon kind of a thing, and then once you're hooked in the relationship and you feel like there's no escape because you're in love with the person, you want it to work out, it'll change. And then you keep making excuses and you find yourself, a few years into the relationship realizing that this is not going to change. This is a major problem.
Right.
So for anybody in that situation, I don't want them to blame themselves because it's not their fault. You knew before you there's many elements to why people stay in abusive relationship. Men who hit women and beat them up and they end up in hospitals. Why do they stay? There's very complicated reasons for that. Fear, one, in certain instances. I mean, it's not a cut and dried thing. And it really bothers me when people point their finger and go, well, you knew. Well, you should have known better.
Right.
Oh, F off.
Let me ask you this. Now, when he confided in you about the incest, this incest was continuing, it was going on during your relationship with him?
Yes.
Okay, and then how did you react to that? You just went along with it?
It's in my book. I don't want to give it all out.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, that's okay. What about Randy Quaid comes up with these kind of wild theories of his own. Has he ever spoken to you or anything like that? Randy Quaid?
No, I did not speak with him, but, the world is a crazy place now, and you can't help but go, well, stranger things have happened. So what he said, I just go, well, who knows? I'm not to discount or discredit his comment.
But would he have any
know.
access to information that you don't have?
I have no idea what he has access to.
Have you never tried to contact him?
No.
Okay.
Why would I?
I don't know. He's making all these.
No, he's the one that brought David into his conversation, so to speak. I have no reason to contact him.
Believe it or not, people actually tried to drag me into his litigation. So that's a whole other story. We can get into it on another day. So you find out one day David Carradine is found dead, hanging in a closet in Bangkok, Thailand. Can you tell us about that? What was your first reaction?
Well, when a mutual friend of ours called me and she's screaming into the phone, "David's dead, David's dead." My immediate reaction was, oh, his liver gave out because of the alcohol, because he went back to drinking after we separated. And because during the 6 years we were together, he stopped drinking, no alcohol. So that was my immediate reaction. And then went into the internet to verify it because I just didn't believe it. I thought, well, you know how they have hoaxes on the internet.
Right.
And my immediate reaction was, no, this is not right. Something is not right. This is just, no. By himself, no. Suicidal? Definitely not. No, it just didn't fit. The only thing that fit was the basic scenario of the choking element to it. But when they say autoerotic asphyxiation, that means by oneself, to choke off oneself. And I went, no, that doesn't fit. So when things came out in the press, over that period of time, I felt something was being held back. And that's when I started consulting my astrologer friends and my psychic people, and okay, give me the scoop on this because something's not right here. And they all concurred. And as I was writing the book, I started putting feelers out and connected with a source, and then another source, and another source. And even after the first edition was published, still I got more stories. I would run into people in parties, and they would say, oh, God, yeah, I talked to David like a month before we went to Thailand, and blah, 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 blah. So all of that is in the book. So there's various theories of what could have happened to him and why. And, none of them fit the by himself suicidal situation, no.
Well,
in essence, I did say in the press, yeah, I felt he was murdered. I still feel he was murdered.
And you feel that due to the psychic input? What about, I think it was Dr. Cyril Wecht or Baden, one of these famous medical examiners reviewed the paperwork, am I correct?
Michael Baden did.
Baden, okay.
He did the second autopsy.
And what was his conclusion?
I can't go over exactly what he said, but asphyxiation. But see, what causes this asphyxiation is in question. See, that's not answered. Was it by the hand of somebody else? It would still go along with the theory of that, they do it to themselves, or blah, 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 blah. So there's a technical reason, and but there's the theory of what caused that technical reason to happen. What I wrote about in the book is I got a copy of the autopsy report from Thailand, and there were certain things in there that pointed to, no, this was not accidental. And I wrote about that and the details about that, which I won't say now because I want people to buy the book.
Yeah, they're not going to buy the. Yeah, that's I know a lot of. I really that's so discouraging because so many authors think the people are going to buy the book if they don't make a connection with the audience. It just doesn't work out that way. It's really a shame because if people can make a connection with you and really get interested in the story, they would go buy the book. My audience buys books. I've sold 300 books on the Marilyn Monroe case, so I know they buy books. But they got to. Yeah, I know, but they got to know what the case is about. They got to know what's going on. So you really. I don't know why. Your publicist tells you that? I don't know who tells you guys to do that because it just doesn't work. And I live off the sale of these books, too, off my Amazon. So I want you to sell books. Okay. Now,
thank you.
Bangkok says that it was they said suicide or they said autoerotic asphyxiation?
What, in the autopsy report?
Yeah, the Bangkok autopsy report.
Well, again, it's like, I guess with the Baden report, there's technical reasons. Well, the technical reasons do not tell you why that came about.
Right. Now, and you suspect...
And that's where I did my own investigation, talked to people, and came up with information and wrote about it as it came up.
And who'd you talk... Besides the psychics, who'd you talk to over there in Thailand that would know about his last few hours?
The last few hours, I wouldn't put it that way, but I talked to the police. I talked with the doctor who did the autopsy. I mean, I talked with some key people. It was a very interesting process in itself, very weird process, because I literally had a roll of toilet paper on my desk because I went through so much in the boxes of Kleenex and crying. I couldn't believe that I was doing this. Just literally just rolling it off the toilet paper and crying and sobbing in the next conversation. It's just a weird, surreal experience. And I feel the truth has not come out, and I'm hoping it will one day. But the Thailand file is now closed, and that includes the surveillance footage.
Have you ever seen the surveillance footage?
Nobody has other than Thailand, as far as my knowledge.
What was he doing in Thailand?
He was doing a film.
Now, what about the producers of the film? Did they try and help you and get a hold of the security footage and stuff like that?
I never spoke with him.
What about, he must have had a big insurance company, right? He had to have that actor's insurance that you get key man insurance for a film, correct? Did they?
I really don't know because I was not married to him at the time.
Right.
I wasn't part of the production. I didn't do anything with the deal. I had nothing to do with any of it. So I did not have, I had certain information, but certain information I'm not coming forward with because that was private. So, but for the most part, that was all out of my realm. I can only go by some hearsay, and that's, I wasn't going to write about necessarily all of that. So,
one of the things I saw,
there was a wrongful death lawsuit, and that was in the press and the media, and so that was out there. It was a real unfortunate. Isn't even the word tragic, is more like it, of the circumstances. And, but, according to some people, David, he kind of, well, there was one person, and I'll give you this one, a mutual friend of ours spoke with David about a couple months before he left, and he said David indicated that, well, if he ever came back, they would get together for coffee or something or other. And so there was a hint of, he questioned whether or not he would ever be coming back alive. And I thought, well, that's kind of a weird thing coming from David. Well, because David was warned. And he didn't pay attention.
He was warned by who?
Pardon?
They were warned by who?
A psychic.
Oh, by a psychic, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I read some of your interviews with the Daily Mail and stuff like that.
You're doing your investigative work.
Well, not really. This is pretty, but the thing is, you said that one of your suspicions is because he normally wore a very expensive watch, and there was no watch in the but he was wearing his wedding ring. You said he was wearing a ring.
Actually, I originally thought it was for theft.
Right.
And then one of the sources that I was consulting with said, no, there wasn't anything stolen. And I thought, that's when I thought it was the intentional murders. Well, they didn't steal anything. What was it? A personal vendetta? I mean, like, whoa. And so, yeah, but back to the watch, yes, he always had a Patek Philippe watch or, one of his other expensive ones. He always wore an expensive watch.
And there was no watch on him at the time?
Not in the photos, no. But the source didn't say it was stolen, so I went, well, okay.
And the source was someone that was there with him in Bangkok?
No.
Psychic.
It was just a source that had key information about the whole thing.
Okay. Now, in all the time you've known David Carradine, has he ever made use of the services of prostitutes?
Not during the time that we were together, to my knowledge.
Okay.
David never had, as far as I know, even in his autobiography, I don't think he ever wrote that he ever paid for any lady companionship. He didn't need to. There was a charisma about David that was just unreal. No, I don't believe he ever did.
Okay, so then it would be out of character then for him to go seeking prostitutes there in Thailand, in Bangkok, in Thailand.
I can't, vouch for him after we separated.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe he did. I just know from my time backwards, I don't think he ever did. Thailand's a different situation, though. Also, he did a film, was it Colombia? There was another film where it was suspected that he indulged in one of the houses, but it was, hearsay, rumor kind of a thing. But in Thailand, that's a kind of a playground for, sexual experimentation and whatever. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did at that point. It wouldn't surprise me at all at that point. But that's an exotic, out of the country sort of thing. If you're talking about the United States and kind of like quote the norm, I'd say no. Okay.
Now, also too, you said that it would be out of his character to engage in this kind of behavior by himself. That he wasn't known to be in self pleasure as
right.
part of, right. So
right.
That was totally out of character for him.
Right. Yeah. He wasn't one for a solo flight.
Okay. But this business of the self.
Sorry.
What are you vacuuming? What are we talking?
Yeah, all of a sudden I had the windows open to the building. And they started with these blowers.
The leaf blowers go by, yeah.
Polluting the air, another pet gripe of mine. Polluting the air with these gasoline blowers. Lovely.
I thought you were starting to vacuum your place over there. We were talking.
No.
Okay.
They're just
but the thing is, because this is a serious topic, I apologize, because God rest his soul, and I hope he rests in peace, David Carradine. I'm a huge fan. And so many millions of people are too as well. A talented man, died way too young. But in your experience with him, he wasn't into self-pleasure, but he was into this autoerotic, not autoerotic, but this business of strangling himself, cutting off his oxygen.
Not himself,
no.
To a partner.
Oh, well then this
and
is
for the partner to do that to him. That's a different thing.
Oh, wait a second. So then he was into the partner strangling him.
Yes.
Okay. See, I thought I understood that from the articles.
Not to himself. Not
right.
for him to do it to himself.
Right.
But for a partner to do it, yes.
And it was mutual strangulation at the same time?
No.
Or you take turns.
That's hard to do. I mean, give you Education 101 on it. It's not to inflict pain. It's the heightened sexual arousing by cutting off the oxygen is supposed to do whatever to give him a heightened sense. And what I found from Dr. Drew, because David was evidently taking opiates, and he had in the past, what I found is opiates change the chemistry of the brain to where a normal level of satisfaction doesn't make it anymore. You have to keep raising the ante. And you keep raising it and raising it and raising it, depending on their usage of opiates and whatever else. And so I believe that had an influence on David's preferences.
And in
the past he did hallucinogenics, he did peyote, and he's very open about that and public about it. So I'm not saying anything out of hand with that either. The famous Laurel Canyon, wandering through there nude and getting arrested, and oh my God, he was out there with experimentation. So
these things happen. But toward the end there, he was using opiates because he had prescription medication, or you knew from his dealer. How do you know this?
Well, we did have the prescription medications around because we had various surgeries between the two of us, and he had dental problems and things. So that was always around. I never bothered looking at the bottles to see if anything was used, but there were certain symptoms and behaviors that he had that I asked Dr. Drew about. And said, I don't understand. How could he sleep through an alarm, people pounding on the door, or the phone, blah, 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 blah. And it's like all of a sudden it was like, oh, my God, duh, opiates. Of course that would, oh, geez, like how lame I felt, But if you're not educated and you don't know what the signs are, to look for them and to question it, basically. So I believe that he was on opiates.
Constipation, was he using a lot of laxatives?
No.
You don't know?
Not that I was aware of.
Okay, because people who take, those...
That can, but... I just think it's what an off-the-wall question.
Well, no, I've done investigations before with people who were drug addicts, and that's one of the symptoms of heavy use of drugs. Especially
he did like his prunes. Okay,
of pill form.
Seriously.
Okay.
Oh,
all right,
my
so
God.
We're out of time anyway, so that's not a great question to end off on, the laxative question, but it had to be asked.
No, it's
not. We had to get to the bottom. We had to get to the bottom of that.
No pun intended, I'm sure, right?
Let's, Marina Anderson, thank you so much. The book is called David Carradine, Eye of My Hurricane. Marina Anderson.
No, it's David Carradine, The Eye of My Tornado.
Oh.
Why is David the Eye of My Tornado? Because I'm in the center, or he's in the center, and everybody's like swirling around him and scrambling in chaos, and he would like stand there and just be amused by everything. And I thought, The Eye of My Tornado. Okay, that's the name of the book.
I get it now. David Carradine, The Eye of My Tornado, marinaanderson.com, and also davidcarradinebook.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night. Okay, well, there you go. Listen, if you like the show, you can go to oppermanreport.com and check out the members section there, where we have a lot of additional content and a lot of additional shows that you can get a hold of there, where people are a little bit more interested in talking about the topic. Good night. And now a word from our sponsors. Did you know that 30% of all people on online dating websites and personal ads are either married or in a monogamous relationship? 30%. If you suspect that your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend may be cheating online, go to emailrevealer.com. Our online infidelity investigation. You give us their email address, and we could trace it back to online personal ads, dating sites, and social networks. We can even expand the investigation and find them cheating on escort service sites or even porn sites if they're registered to porn sites and swinger sites. So check out emailrevealer.com if you suspect your spouse is cheating, and check out our online infidelity investigation. William Ramsey is a producer here at the Opperman Report, and he's just come out with a new book. Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. Now, he just sent me a copy of this book. Oh, boy, it's about 2 inches thick. And there's a chapter on just about everybody in this book that you can imagine. The Beatles and Jack Parsons. Everybody's in here. It's incredible. And I definitely recommend this book. There's a bunch of pictures in here, too, of all these people and different chapters and information. Anselm LaVey and people I've never heard of, too. There's a whole bunch in here. JFC Fuller. I don't know who he is. But it's great stuff by our producer here, William Ramsey. So check out Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. You can find it on Amazon.com, or you could find it in the OppermanReport.com bookstore. We have an urgent bulletin. It seems that the group Strawman is still on the loose. It has been confirmed that Strawman are Canadian, okay, and that authorities are asking people to stay indoors, lock your doors and windows until this group can be dealt with. You could find more information about this group of Canadians, at strawmanmusic.com. You can have your ad played here. Okay, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, in fact, we desperately need sponsors right now to take this show to the next level. So you can have your ad played here, read live, like I'm doing now, so artfully. Or we can even work up a little jingle for you with some music and stuff like that and play it here. You have no idea how inexpensive it would be to have your ad played on the Opperman Report on 7 stations. Live Friday night, and another 7 stations live on Saturday night, plus replayed every day of the week on different stations, and then archived on YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and all different kinds of podcasts, Pod This and Podbean, all different kinds of places who archive the show for us. And on those archives, your ad would play indefinitely, forever. You also get a little banner on OppermanReport.com. You get a mention on the air. You get a little interview on the air, and all kinds of fun stuff if you sponsor Opperman Report. We have an opportunity to get this show on a major AM/FM station in California. We've been approved. So if you want to sponsor us into that, so incredibly inexpensive that your ad would be heard by a the range covers 5 million people in population where your ad would be broadcast, and all these other stations would be thrown in for free. So really affordable prices to sponsor OppermanReport.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You can get a copy of that book at emailrevealer.com, or you can get a copy of that book now. It's back up on Amazon.com. How to Become a Successful Private Investigator by Ed Opperman. And this book has been updated a little bit from the previous book that we had that was available to our wonderful listeners.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and this show is brought to you by pscoco.com. Phoebe Saad is an independent curator with the Cocoa Exchange, formerly known as Dove Chocolate Discoveries. Everybody knows Dove Chocolate Discoveries. They make the best chocolates out there. They make the best chocolate because they start with the best cocoa beans. which are tested for quality by expert technicians. The Cocoa Exchange offers not just premium chocolates, but anything from sauces and spices to brownie mixes, cake mixes, and even coffee and martini mixes. So if you wish to treat yourself or someone you love to a sweet and tasty gift, the Cocoa Exchange is the brand for you. You go to pscocoa.com, that's pscocoa.com. You click on the Shop Now button, you see all the beautiful chocolates. You can order them tonight. They'll be at your doorstep Monday morning. Or if you want to get into the cocoa business, if you want to be a chocolatier like Phoebe Sod, you click the Contact Us button. You get into the cocoa business, you get your own website, and you can get those sampler packets. You can host those parties, like those old Tupperware parties you used to do in the old days. pscocoa.com. Okay. We got an icon, really, a historical icon today. Everyone's heard of Lassie and Benji, and there's even a couple other dogs here that I was really shocked to see that they're all by the same trainer. Toto from Wizard of Oz and Old Yeller. These are all the famous dogs you got, except Rin Tin Tin. I don't see him on here, but we got every big major dog, Lassie, all these iconic dogs. And we have with us today Bob Weatherwax. He just wrote a book called 4 Feet to Fame, A Hollywood Dog Trainer's Journey. And you can check out his website called weatherwaxtraindogs.com. And Bob Weatherwax is the son of, I believe the name was Rudd Weatherwax. And Bob Weatherwax is the same age as Lassie. They was born the same year as Lassie was born. Fascinating stuff. I can't wait to get into this. So Bob Weatherwax, are you there?
Yes, I am. And actually, Lassie was born 1 year before me.
Oh, you're older than you. Okay. When we get, when you get into 70 years, you kind of stop counting.
Yeah, they go together at that point.
Yeah. Before we get into Lassie and stuff like that, tell us about Bob Weatherwax. Who is Bob Weatherwax?
Well, Bob Weatherwax is a guy that was raised with about 40 dogs. My father furnished just not Lassie or those dogs. He furnished dogs in movies and westerns. You'd see dogs on the west end street, what we called atmosphere dogs in those days, and small parts. Like actors have small parts, and he went to work at studios and extra, and then was seen by a man who trained dogs and was hired to train dogs. He saw that he had a lot of talent, and that was my father, and he started training these dogs, and I grew up with Lassie. I grew up with 40 dogs. Matter of fact, I helped maintain those 40 dogs. And I woke up one morning, first time I remember seeing Lassie. I was sleeping in bed, and his cold nose hit me in the face, and it woke me up.
I was checking out your website, weatherwaxtraindogs.com, and that Lassie is a beautiful dog, man. That is just a gorgeous, gorgeous dog. Now, when you were growing up with Lassie, because I know at home his name was Pal, right?
Yes, well, the original one, yes.
So
then they all went to Lassie, because needless to say, there were more dogs used during that period of time than one.
Now, so at home, did you call him Pal or did you call him Lassie?
No, we called him. The first one my father acquired on a boarding bill. The guy didn't pick his dog up, owed my father $10, told my father to keep the dog in lieu of the 10, and so Lassie was actually purchased for $10, Pal rather, and then then the Lassie show, the opportunity of Lassie came along, and Dad changed it to Lassie because that's the name of the movie, and then from then on, during the series, 6 more movies, a series that went on 17 years, and we started calling them all Lassies. They were laddies when they were in training, and then as soon as they took over for their fathers, they became Lassie.
Now, can you take any dog and train them to do those kind of tricks and stuff like that Lassie could do?
Yes, you can if you have the skill. That's the trick. That's what the book's about. My father and his brothers, they came from a working ranch in New Mexico. My grandfather trained, well, he did everything. He was a part-time U.S. Marshal. He trained horses for Buffalo Bill's Wild West Circus and also was a trick rider. And he trained a white collie called King to herd about 100 Angora goats. And so it was a practical working ranch. And then he invented the high altitude carburetor for Curtiss Wright. They bought him out. He came to California, and he had nothing. He could, so he started hanging around the studios and doing writing jobs. And my father started hanging around the studio trying to get work as a kid, as a paper boy. And one day he got the job as a paper boy, and but he had this little dog, Wiggles, that he trained, and he was a pretty clever guy, my father. So he wrote the little dog right along with him with the paper, and until he finally found a place with a door open, with the people talking, and they left the door open. And he threw the paper inside the door and sent the dog after it, and they all looked and they liked it. And they says, "Well, you're fired. Your day's work's done. But tomorrow we want you back with that little dog." And this prop man is what they were in those days. Saw that and decided to put my father to work at $2 a day, training dogs for motion pictures.
$50 a day back in those days was a ton of money, right?
Yeah, $2 buy some stuff.
Yeah, right. Now, if we bought your book, right, 4 Feet to Fame, are there tips in there on how to train dogs?
No, it doesn't tell you that, but it does show you some certain shots we did and how we did them and things like that. No, it's not a training book, but I might consider it. If this book sells well and people seem to be interested, I might go that way. I'll have to talk to my publisher. It's very complicated. What we do is we do motion picture training, and I've trained all types of dogs, and I have to consider motion picture training the calculus. It's the highest thing you can do. You take a dog into a place. It's not routine. Most all dogs are trained or routine to do things at certain places, and these dogs are so trained, you just take him in and the director starts telling you, I want this shot. He comes down the hill, he goes where he picks up this object. He takes the object to the person, and then he gives it to him, and then he barks at him, and then he leads him up the mountain. And that's what the director told you. And we do it now because the dog is so highly trained.
And you can get that in one take, or you got to do several takes?
Oh, yeah, we did one take one day. Lassie's up in the mountains. See, when we used more than one trainer because he had to, because we did a lengthy takes without cuts. Today there's a lot of cuts. And Lassie, supposedly there's a barn burning. It's a wide shot. You can see the barn and smoke coming out of it, and there's 3 horses in there. And Lassie comes up over the hill to the left, and he looks down, he sees it burning, so down the hill he goes. He gets to the barn. There's a rope hanging on the door, kind of we set those things. And so he gets something to get his mouth on. He pulls the rope and it opens up the door. He goes in and there's also like little 2x4s that flip down in between something that hold everything in place. Well, he goes to the one and he flips it up with his nose, and that lets that horse go out. That horse exits. And then he flips up another one, and that horse exits. And the horse inside the last one, he won't come out. He's stubborn. But he happens to have a hackamore on him, which is a rope-type setup. Lassie grabs that and takes him on out the door and then releases him and goes back up the hill for help. And that's all in one take.
Fast. And even with the fire and stuff like that, the dog doesn't get spooked?
Yeah, yeah. But as you know in movies, the fire is not quite what it really is. There's a lot of smoke and flame in the background to appear that the place is getting ready to burn down.
Did you ever have problems like with the other actors or people working on the set? They'd want to play with the dog and get them all worked up and distracted?
No, we would not allow that. Sometimes we wanted it if the scene calls for that type of interaction, but actually we didn't want that. Lassie stayed by himself in his dressing room, and he had a hard work schedule too. We didn't want him out there. We'd let him rest every period he could get.
Now, do you get this sense that Lassie knew he was something special?
Yes. Well, you take a dog on a set, and everybody pets him. We'd let him do that in the morning. Everybody would pet him, and somebody might even come up and give him a tidbit, only from my father, because he didn't let other foods And he got his greeting in the morning, and he was pretty happy about that. And then the day worked, and as he worked, he was always rewarded after the scene, and he knew he was going to get a food reward, and so on and so forth. When I used to tour with Lassie, because he's pretty, being that popular, I would do rodeos. I mean, I did the Cow Palace, I've done the Madison Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, all these venues for people to see him perform a performance, which we had a 20-minute act that we did with some of his more spectacular things, and he really loved that. He got to be a ham on that because at the end he'd fight the villain and the people would applaud and all that, and he went off that applause. He got up and says, "All these people really like me," It's amazing how dogs they get real smart.
Yeah, they say it's a dog's life, They say everybody applaud him.
Dog's life. He rode around in limousines. He flew first class. He stayed in the plaza in New York.
Hey, now what about? Would you be on the set too when your dad was doing all this training?
I was his assistant.
Okay.
For 13 years.
So then you must
That's
have been.
how I learned my trade. And plus, I was his assistant when I was 6 years of age. I used to be the little kid that played Tommy Reddick or Timmy, that he would train his new lassies on to give a kiss. He put baby food in my face and show the dog to lick it off, and then later on it became a cue. He didn't need the baby food. And he would have, teach the dog to pick me up by the arm and bring me to him and go with him as the kid would have his dog go with him. So I was actually, I started training at about 6, 7 years of age.
Did you ever get jealous of Timmy, the actor, the kid who played Timmy, and said, boy, then he gets to be on TV and I don't?
No, he and I got to be great friends. Matter of fact, I did a eulogy.
Oh.
He passed too young, and we were very good friends for many years.
When did he die?
1964.
Okay, that's quite a long time ago. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Excuse me. 1984. When I did the last movie, I forget. 94.
94.
I finished the last movie in 94. I've got so many dates. My father died and so on. So this. Yeah, 94. He passed away.
Yeah, I know. The older you get, more people, more people you see pass on.
Well, I've got a lot of people that passed away in my life.
I hear you, man.
He was 51.
Yeah.
He was about 6 months younger than me.
Oh, that's a shame. Now,
yeah, it was.
Were there any, since Lassie was this big Hollywood celebrities, was there any kind of scandals, like any pregnancies or drug use or anything like that with Lassie?
No, Lassie was pretty clean liver. He liked food a lot. That was his drug.
Now, you got to, at that time, Lassie was like the biggest star in movies and TV series. He was like one of the biggest stars in show business, right?
Yes, he was. He was a true star. And in the almanac, the World Almanac, it says Red Widow actually trained the greatest star dog of all time. Or not dog, it says the greatest star animal of all time. And then I'm in the almanac with him. And he's Smithsonian Institute. He's a star on the sidewalk in a good spot, not where you buy him today.
Okay.
He's in the across from Grumman's Chinese, I believe, and I believe his paw print's over there too. Because when I was a kid, I went with my father to do the paw print, and and needless to say, many, many awards, and it's too vast to even try to figure.
Do you think your family, as the owners of Lassie and the trainers of Lassie, got your fair share of all the money generated by that franchise?
And the money was generated by the franchise, but unfortunately, we didn't get any of it.
Yeah.
Number one, they don't give dog residuals. All these actors get pretty well off on their residuals. So he wasn't an SAG guy, no residuals. And they felt as if they wanted to pay you somewhat like a dog.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but
Lassie grossed MGM $48 million in the 40s on 7 movies. A lot of money then, a lot of money now.
Yeah.
He was the 4th highest grosser, and it was, I think, it was Mickey Rooney, Judy
Garland.
Toto girl.
Yeah, Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. And then I think it was Spencer Tracy, and then it was Lassie was fourth. And he had like 50 stars on the contract or more at MGM at that time. And Lassie ended up fourth. And Louis really liked, Louis B. Mayer liked Lassie a lot. He treated him with specialty. And so he, losing train of thought a little bit here. Better have another swig of coffee.
Yeah. Well, I was asking, the rights to Lassie. You know what I mean? Like, you would think it would be worth.
No. We bought the name. We acquired the name because when we left, they owed my father $17,000.
Right.
And so his accountant saved him. His accountant says, they're not going to make these movies. Nobody saw any future in anything. And he says, why don't you just let him keep the $17,000, keep a little for yourself, running money, let him keep the majority of it, and see if he can acquire the name. And he didn't think they would do that, but they did, and he acquired the name. And but Lassie didn't do anything for a long time, And then finally the TV came along, and he had the name. But Dad made bad deals. He didn't have a lawyer. It wasn't like today. It was, he actually, Lassie was paid $1,500 an episode, and he signed a thing that said perpetuity. He didn't realize show was going to go on 20 years, and that's perpetuity. No, nothing else, no residuals.
Well, I'm sure it's still on TV some places today, right?
Pardon?
I'm sure it's still on TV in some places today.
Oh,
right?
It is, but it doesn't matter. We don't get anything.
Ugh.
And then we finally sold the name. He and his partner, who owned the name, sold the name in 2002, and that was it. And they decided to go in another direction, and they hired their own collie, and so on and so forth. And that was it for Lassie and the Weather Waxes. But we did tenure for 60 years, so I look at it as it's really the Weather Waxes. We created it, my father created it, and we continued it into a big star. And then they came in and bought it, and it's not done well.
Yeah. Well, if they're using a different collie that's not of the bloodline of Lassie, it's pretty much a counterfeit.
Yeah,
right? It's not the real thing.
That's not the point. The point of my book is they don't have a trainer in the caliber. I talked to Steven Spielberg one day. I went up to his office because I was doing Back to the Future, and I went to show him a dog. And he says, Bob Weatherwax, because I have uncles. He says, which one's your father? And I said, Rudd Weatherwax. And he says, your father's a genius. So I went home and told my father. I met Spielberg today, and he said, you're a genius. He says, don't blow smoke up my. He didn't believe me, but he was a genius. And Spielberg said it. Nobody could have said it better. For what he did, his occupation, just nobody could touch him. Nobody could touch him. He taught things beyond anybody's imagination.
Yeah, I don't think we. Bob, I don't think we see any dogs like Benji and Lassie doing that kind of stuff today, do we? Maybe with special effects. But we don't see any. Is there a show like right now where they have a dog doing this kind of stuff? No.
No, they don't. And there's all cuts.
Yeah.
And and the dog looks at the trainer, and the mood's not set. Dad used to study acting so that he could actually get the dog to respond as the actor. Ann Sweeney, who's the president of Nickelodeon, once told me, she says, your father, what he did, other dogs did tricks. She says, but Lassie acted, and she says, and he was a better actor than most actors. She says, so your father taught a dog to act. Dad knew timing. He would teach me the timing of when to turn his head, because that might mean something different. It was in pantomime. And how to come with his head down because things weren't good. And then how to be happy, how to this, how to that, how to turn always towards the camera. He was like an actor. Dad taught him everything of the actor. He could do everything but talk.
Yeah. But he seemed like he knew English because he always knew that Timmy was down the well, right? And sometimes they could kind of...
we never had a well.
There was a mine shaft, right?
I don't know about a mine shaft, but we never had a well. I don't know where that came from. It just sounded good, I guess.
Okay, I always thought, maybe it's, those are fake memories people have nowadays, Now, what about now, by the time Benji came around and you guys were training Benji, you must have been more savvy with the money and the stuff like that. Do you still
We didn't train Benji.
Oh, you didn't?
My father had a man that came to work for him named Frank. A man named Frank, and I have somebody at my door.
Okay, you know what? This is a good time. I'll play a commercial break, okay?
Just so quiet in a minute. My father, Benji, Franklin went to work for my father when he was a young man. He'd worked in a sideshow, and he taught some dogs a few tricks and things. And then he came to my father, and the funny thing there is every day at MGM, my father, he wasn't a trainer. He was what you call craft service. He was a laborer.
Right.
And he would switch jobs to get on the Lassie show because I guess they didn't put him on steady shows. And every day Dad would look at him, and he'd be hanging on his shovel watching everything Dad did. And he says, "How do you get this show so often? What do you do?" He said, "I trade for it." And he said, what do you want? He says, "I want to be a dog trainer like you." And my father took him underarm, and made him his assistant for the Lassie movies, and then made him assistant for the beginning of the Lassie TV show, and more or less created the man who created a great dog. But my father was the guy behind that. I remember one day Frank was going to argue with him, and my father said, "Don't argue with me, Frank." He says, "I taught you everything you know. Not everything I know, but everything you know."
Yeah, that's a good one, yeah. Wait.
And it's the truth. My father was, believe me, I worked with them all. I've worked with the greatest trainers ever. I've never come up with anybody with my father's talent.
Yeah, and it was like
that goes for Frank. And Frank had a lot of talent.
But your dad was a natural at it, though, right? He's just a natural animal person.
He's a man that found something that he wanted to do. You might say his niche, that he wanted to do better than anybody ever, and did it, and sat and studied and did it. When he was still doing the Lassie show, he was still watching the show. So what are you watching now? He says, "I see something I don't like, and I'm going to change it in the next episode." A certain look Lassie had, or a certain thing that Dad said he could have done this better. And he was continually working to his age where he couldn't, training another dog and trying to make it better, always better. So it was a man that was he was obsessed.
Yeah.
Like those geniuses that never stop, until they create something that can't be recreated.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you guys also trained, you supplied Toto for the movie The Wizard of Oz. Is that right?
My Uncle Jack did that. My Uncle Jack was a good trainer, too. He did that for a man named Carl Spitz. He didn't own the dog, but Carl Spitz didn't train little dogs. He was a German Shepherd trainer. And he got a hold of Jack, says, "Train this little dog for Wizard of Oz," and Jack trained it. And I think it's a masterpiece.
When you guys were working on that film, your uncle, did he realize it was going to be this iconic film that would last forever?
No, he did not. He actually he wanted to do a show called The Phantom. It was a cartoon in the papers, and he trained 2 German Shepherds in lieu of waiting for them to do that movie. There was always talk they were going to do it, and he wanted to be prepared with a well-trained white Shepherd, and because that's what The Phantom had as his sidekick. And it never happened. But he died not knowing that he had probably trained a classic that might outlast Lassie. Because that's like a stable, that show is. It's every Christmas it's going to be there.
Forget it. Yeah, it's a classic, yeah.
It's just a stable. It's like the 34th Street. It's always going to be there.
Right. Hey, now, the other one was Old Yeller. What's the story with Old Yeller?
Old Yeller, Uncle Frank trained Old Yeller. And I think my father worked a little bit on certain shots to help him, but that was Frank's training. So in our family we had Jack with Toto, Frank with Old Yeller, and my father with the biggest star of them all, Lassie.
And Benji was a guy that
understand. They trained a lot of other dogs too. They trained. My father trained Honda with John Wayne. I trained Big Jake with John Wayne. We just didn't do. It became the most famous and our most productive. But we trained dogs. My father did Hounds of Basketball. He did Daisy. He did Asta. And I've done the same thing. I've trained a lot of other dogs, like Back to the Future, for instance, and stuff like that.
Well, I don't really remember a dog being in Back to the Future. What did the dog do in Back to the Future?
He didn't do much. He was there at the beginning, and it's too bad because he's my best trained dog. I could have done anything, but he did do a lot of other work. But in Back to the Future, he tested the car. They put him in the car to see. He was a test guinea pig, and he was at the beginning when the show started. But he didn't have a major part. I had him in 2 or 3 other movies where he had major parts. They were TV movies, and he starred them.
What about you remember Skippy the kangaroo?
No, not really.
No, you don't. Oh, there was this kangaroo, and I got to tell you, thinking back, because when you're a kid and you watch this, it was a trained kangaroo, in Australia with the game warden down there in Australia. Pretty much it was an identical to Lassie, but with a kangaroo, And I know it was a total ripoff, And when you watch it when you're a kid, you thought, "Oh my God, this is the most brilliant kangaroo in the world." But as an adult, when you watch these repeats, you could tell that the kangaroo did one shot, and they just used the clip over and over again. They used the same scene.
Yeah, well, you see, they didn't do that with Lassie. He did everything over and over again, but not the same shot. We were running out of things to make Lassie do. I mean, our writers would come in, and Dad wouldn't let him do anything that was preposterous or demeaning to the dog because they wanted to start doing cutesy stuff. And he says, "No, Lassie's regal. Lassie is a hero. I'll do anything you want him to do, but it has to have its integrity." And so, but the dog did everything. He saved everything.
Yeah.
I can't imagine all the animals he saved.
Yeah,
and people.
It was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. Now, what about Rin Tin Tin? Who came first, Lassie or Rin Tin Tin?
Rin Tin Tin, owned by a man named Lee Duncan. He got that dog from an army. It was a war dog. And what it was an athletic war dog. This dog could jump further than anything. And mainly that's what got my father hooked on Lassie. He used to go down to Nickelodeon's and he put nickel in the Nickelodeon and see these Rin Tin Tin shows. Well, actually, he wanted Lassie happened to him while he was making other plans. He wanted to have another Rin Tin Tin because Lee Duncan's dog died. When it died, Lee Duncan couldn't replace it because he didn't train it to begin with. The Army did.
Oh.
So that's why you never saw another Rin Tin Tin.
See, wow.
So my father was going to have the next Rin Tin Tin. And he used to critique it and say, "I can make it better. I can make it." He felt there was no rapport between the dog. The dog was a stunt guy, and he leaped and jumped, but didn't have that rapport between the boy. And my father used to say, "Every dog needs a boy. Every boy needs a dog," and because you have to have something to come home to, you have to have something to create empathy, and so he was going to do that. So. He has this dog Kazan, and he has a big reputation at MGM for doing all these other movies. And they started the Lassie show with regular collies that they'd got somewhere, and they were using 2 or 3, and they were not working well. And it was a B movie anyway. Excuse me. And so they tried to use these 3 collies, and Louis B. Mayer and everybody, they were upset. They said, "This is terrible, terrible work. Dogs are looking over here. They're not doing what they're supposed to do." They said, "Well, what are we going to do?" He says, "Well, we know of a renowned trainer on this that works for us, that does Daisy and does this. Let's call him in and see if he can get a collie." Well, it so happened that $10 collie that my father had, he had that collie, and they said, "We want you to do this show." And he says, "No," he says, "You promised me a German Shepherd show called Rip Goes to War." And he says, "I've been preparing to do that show." And they said, "Well, here's the deal. you do this show, you don't do Rip Goes to War.
Oh, boy.
And so he did the show. He trained the dog as he went. It became a blockbuster movie, and Rip went to war. Never happened. And neither did the German Shepherds. It became Red Weatherwax and his famous collie.
I tell you, man, what a life, man! Just to drop the name Louis B. Mayer, just what a life, man! I tell you, you gotta really look back and be proud. Let me take a little commercial break here, okay? It's about I didn't tell you off the air, but it's a 4-minute and 58-second break. So you got plenty of time to get a drink of water, take your time.
Clear my throat.
Clear your throat. So we'll be right back with more of Bob Weatherwax. The book is called 4 Feet to Fame: A Hollywood Dog Trainer's Journey. And the website is weatherwaxtraindogs.com. We'll be right back with more of Bob Weatherwax right after these messages.
Would you want to read the book? Did I do good enough to read? Want to read?
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
I got a terrible thought.
Did you know that 30%
We're off there for a minute.
of all people
They went to a commercial.
on online dating websites and personal ads are either married or in a monogamous relationship? 30%. If you suspect that your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend may be cheating online, go to emailrevealer.com and our online infidelity investigation. You give us their email address, and we can trace it back to online personal ads, dating sites, and social networks. We can even expand the investigation and find them cheating on escort service sites or even porn sites if they're registered to porn sites and swinger sites. So check out emailrevealer.com if you suspect your spouse is cheating, and check out our online infidelity investigation. William Ramsey is a producer here at the Opperman Report, and he's just come out with a new book, Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. Now, he just sent me a copy of this book. Oh, boy, it's about 2 inches thick. And there's a chapter on just about everybody in this book that you can imagine. The Beatles, and Jack Parsons. Everybody's in here. It's incredible. And I definitely recommend this book. There's a bunch of pictures in here, too, of all these people and different chapters and information. Anton LaVey and people I've never heard of, too. There's a whole bunch in here. JFC Fuller. I don't know who he is. But it's great stuff by our producer here, William Ramsey. So check out Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. You can find it on Amazon.com. Or you could find it in the OppermanReport.com bookstore. We have an urgent bulletin. It seems that the group Strawman is still on the loose. It has been confirmed that Strawman are Canadian, okay, and that authorities are asking people to stay indoors, lock your doors and windows until this group can be dealt with. You could find more information about this group of Canadians, at strawmanmusic.com. You can have your ad played here. Okay, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, in fact, we desperately need sponsors right now to take this show to the next level. So you can have your your ad played here, read live, like I'm doing now, so artfully. Or we can even work up a little jingle for you with some music and stuff like that and play it here. You have no idea how inexpensive it would be to have your ad played on the Opperman Report on 7 stations live Friday night and another 7 stations live on Saturday night, plus replayed every day of the week on different stations, and then archived on YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and all different kinds of podcasts, Pod This and Podbean, all different kinds of places who archive the show for us. And on those archives, your ad would play indefinitely, forever. You also get a little banner on oppermanreport.com. You get a mention on the air, you get a little interview on the air, and all kinds of fun stuff if you sponsor Opperman Report. We have an opportunity to get this show on a major AM/FM station in California. We've been approved. So if you want to sponsor us into that, so incredibly inexpensive that your ad would be heard by the range covers 5 million people in population where your ad would be broadcast, and all these other stations would be thrown in for free. So really affordable prices to sponsor OppermanReport.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You can get a copy of that book at emailrevealer.com, or you can get a copy of that book now. It's back up on Amazon.com. How to Become a Successful Private Investigator by Ed Opperman. And this book has been updated a little bit from the previous book that we had that was available to our wonderful listeners. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman, and we're here today with Bob Weatherwax. He's the son of Rudd Weatherwax. These guys are Hollywood legends behind the scenes. You never heard of these guys probably, but these guys are right there in the back of Wizard of Oz and Lassie and all this kind of stuff. The book is 4 Feet to Fame: A Hollywood Dog Trainer's Journey. Bob, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Is there anyone carrying on this work? This legendary work of Rudd and Bob Weatherwax.
No. I'm it.
No more. So
no more.
Do you see anyone out there doing work quality in comparison to what you guys are doing?
No. Because somebody has to teach it to them. I learned it by the genius, and there's no geniuses out there teaching it. There's nobody that knows any of this stuff. Oh, they'll get a dog to come in and sit, and they'll do a Fraser, he's on the couch, and stuff like that. But they're not going to go to. There's no colleges for it. It's like being in the circus, a trapeze artist or something. You got to learn it from the other trapeze artist. You're not going to go find a college course for it. So.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because even the circuses are dying out. They just stopped touring one of these big circuses. Yeah.
Yep. That was too bad. I remember as a child going there.
I know. It's a different world. It's a different world.
Yes, it is. Well, I actually went there when it was tent.
Right.
Right. Now, then later on, they started putting them inside of venues, or big venues, and I didn't care for that. Didn't have that tent smell.
Right. So, we've only got a few minutes left. Are there any stories, really big stories you want to tell us that we've left out of the interview so far?
Pardon?
I says we only have a few minutes left. Is there any stories you want to tell that we've left out of the interview so far?
I'll end you up with a funny one.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
One day, Dad, when we worked inside the set, there was a dressing room for Lassie, so nobody could bother him. But when we were working exterior on the back lot or something, they had all Dad had was his car, and he put his car in the shade, rolled the windows halfway down for air, make sure it was cool for the dog, and put the dog in there for his rest. And he didn't want anybody bothering the dog. But lo and behold, people saw the dog, and here they come. They got their hands in the window, and they're trying to pet him, and he can't sleep. And so my father tells Frank, figuratively, but he took it literally. He says, look, I'm tired of people disturbing that dog. He says, the next guy that comes up there and disturbs that dog, he says, kick him in the butt and throw him out of there. And so Frank sees this guy come up. He puts his hand in there, pets the dog. Frank goes up, kicks him in the butt, and throws him out of there. And then the next day, Louis B. Mayer comes down, and he says, Rudd, I want to ask you something. He says, what's that? He says, well, my nephew is visiting from New York, and he wanted to see Lassie. And he says when he went to see Lassie, some big fella came up, kicked him in the butt, and threw him out of there. He says, would you happen to know anything about that? Dad says, no, I don't know why anybody would do that. And then he says, by the way, he says, I'll personally do a little show for for your nephew. He says, tell me, how long is he going to be in town? And he says, oh, he leaves Monday. He says, okay, I'll get to him before that and make sure he's entertained. And then he went to Frank and he says, do not be seen till Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right. Get out of town. Louis B. Mayer's looking for you.
You go hide around those buildings. You do whatever you do, but don't appear anywhere down here. So.
Oh, man. Bob, thank you so much, man. This is really a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. 4 Feet to Fame, a Hollywood dog trainer's journey. I really enjoyed this. Weatherwaxtraindogs.com. Good luck with the book. I know the book's not out yet. It's coming out in July, but they can pre-order on Amazon. So you can go to Amazon.com, and I'm going to have the link up on Opera Report Blogspot. It'll be in the Opera Report bookstore, and you go in there and pre-order. And I'll even repeat the show in July, so that.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, one more thing.
Somebody wants to say goodbye here.
Okay.
Speak.
Woof, woof.
Come on. Don't
Woof.
move.
I'll do it. Woof, woof, woof.
Speak.
Hey!
Speak. Okay.
Hey, that sounds just like Lassie. That sounds just like Lassie.
Yeah. You sound just like him. We just don't have to tell me.
Oh, well, I'll be
Okay.
timid. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Good night. Well, there you had it, man. We finally had Lassie on our show, the descendant of Lassie. I can retire now of my showbiz career in happiness. If you like this show, OppermanReport.com, in the member section. Okay, guys? Oh, my God. OppermanReport.com. We got the member section there. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Besides the exclusive shows, we have exclusive shows that you won't hear on the air Friday night. You won't hear it on the air Saturday night. We just picked up a brand new station called Pulse Talk Radio. They're going to be playing our shows on Fridays and Saturdays. I'm working on another station and be playing us on Saturdays. And also, too, I'm working on AM/FM stations. We're going to pick up a whole bunch of AM/FM stations this summer. It's going to be my project this summer to do this. But there's exclusive shows at OppermanReport.com. You become a member, $6 a month. You can download all these shows. But also, too, we got videos. There's videos of the Jeffrey Epstein search warrant execution. It's like exclusive stuff. I got the 24-page letter where Jeffrey Epstein talks about how he created the Clinton Foundation. It was his idea. You won't find that anywhere online. All the Trump litigation with the Trump University lawsuit litigation, got all that on there. All kind of Jeffrey Epstein documents. A lot of great obscure things that you won't find anywhere else available to you in the member section. I'm also working on a little plan where I'm going to do like a monthly email newsletter to just kind of flesh out some of the topics we discuss on here that people don't seem to get what I'm trying to get across to you. I have a lot of information I want to get out to the public, but sometimes I'm prohibited. Okay, and I'm trying to get this information to you the best way I can. So maybe I'll mention a little bit one week, a little bit the next week, and people don't seem to be catching on and getting what I'm trying to do here. So we're gonna maybe add an email update to you as well and really spell it out to you, so I wind up in prison. Bob Weatherwax, 4 Feet to Fame, a Hollywood dog trainer's journey. That was a lot of fun. His website is weatherwaxtraindogs.com. You can read his bio on there. There's a picture of that beautiful Lassie dog we just heard bark. Woof, woof, woof. Bark right back at you, Lassie. Ed Opperman's in the mine shaft. Go get him. Let's go save Ed Opperman. He's in the mine. He dove into the mine shaft to kill himself. Please go to OppermanReport.com, become a member. You can send a donation, OppermanReport@gmail.com. We love your donations. They keep us going here. Good night. And now a word from our sponsors. Did you know that 30% of all people on online dating websites and personal ads are either married or in a monogamous relationship? 30%. If you suspect that your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend may be cheating online, go to emailrevealer.com. On our online infidelity investigation. You give us their email address, and we can trace it back to online personal ads, dating sites, and social networks. We can even expand the investigation and find them cheating on escort service sites or even porn sites if they're registered to porn sites and swinger sites. So check out emailrevealer.com if you suspect your spouse is cheating, and check out our online infidelity investigation. William Ramsey is a producer here at the Opperman Report, and he's just come out with a new book, Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. Now, he just sent me a copy of this book. Oh boy, it's about 2 inches thick, and there's a chapter on just about everybody in this book that you can imagine. The Beatles, and Jack Parsons, everybody's in here. It's incredible. And I definitely recommend this book. There's a bunch of pictures in here, too, of all these people and different chapters and information. Anton LaVey and people I've never heard of, too. There's a whole bunch in here. JFC Fuller. I don't know who he is. But it's great stuff by our producer here, William Ramsey. So check out Children of the Beast, Aleister Crowley's Shadow Over Humanity. You can find it on Amazon.com, or you could find it in the Opperman Report.com bookstore. We have an urgent bulletin. It seems that the group Strawman is still on the loose. It has been confirmed that Strawman are Canadian, okay, and that authorities are asking people to stay indoors, lock your doors and windows until this group can be dealt with. You could find more information about this group of Canadians, at strawmanmusic.com. You can have your ad played here. Okay, we're looking for sponsors. Okay, in fact, we desperately need sponsors right now to take this show to the next level. So you can have your ad played here, read live, like I'm doing now, so artfully. Or we can even work up a little jingle for you with some music and stuff like that and play it here. You have no idea how inexpensive it would be to have your ad played on the Opperman Report on 7 stations live Friday night, and another 7 stations live on Saturday night, plus replayed every day of the week on different stations, and then archived on YouTube, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and all different kinds of podcasts, Pod This and Podbean, all different kinds of places who archive the show for us. And on those archives, your ad would play indefinitely, forever. You also get a little banner on OppermanReport.com. You get a mention on the air. You get a little interview on the air, and all kinds of fun stuff if you sponsor Opperman Report. We have an opportunity to get this show on a major AM/FM station in California. We've been approved. So if you want to sponsor us into that, so incredibly inexpensive that your ad would be heard by the range covers 5 million people in population where your ad would be broadcast, and all these other stations would be thrown in for free. So really affordable prices to sponsor OppermanReport.com. Get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You can get a copy of that book at emailrevealer.com, or you can get a copy of that book now. It's back up on Amazon.com. How to Become a Successful Private Investigator by Ed Opperman. And this book has been updated a little bit from the previous book that we had that was available to our wonderful listeners.